Perfect. All right, last question. This is from Lacey.
Okay.
Lacey asks, when you fall down to the 2.7 hole, how can you catch yourself before hitting the bottom?
Well, first of all, we all have that 2.7. We never, ever get to the point that we don't have 2.7 moments. You just want to make sure it doesn't become a 2.7 month. And the way that we move out from 2.7, we got to 2.7 by listening to the messages of other people in our lives telling us we were just a 2.7. And we were repetitive with that. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. So it took you talking yourself into believing you were 2.7. Well, the way out of 2.7 is exactly the same way. It takes as much effort to convince yourself that you're a 2.7 as it does to convince yourself that you're an 8. Mm-hmm. And so it ultimately starts with knowing what you look like when you're in 2.7. Your friends know what you look like when you're in your 2.7 mode. We call that your little guy mode.
Yes.
They know what you look like. So one, do you have accountability around you that when you're in your 2.7 moment, do your friends, are they able to say, hey, Fred, time out. What's going on? Because I know when you're in your 2.7, what's triggering this? So one is accountability. Second is self-awareness. Being aware of when you're in that moment. And then the third is making a choice to believe the truth about yourself. I choose to accept the fact that I am of infinite worth and that no one can ever take my value away. That is a choice. We call that living by declaration, not living by desperation, which is my value is defined by others, and I am desperate to prove myself to them all the time. So we all have those moments. And I tell people that if you're no longer struggling with that, you probably have already given in to that monster. As long as you're struggling with that question and there's a tension there, I would say you're probably pretty okay with that. And it's just an ongoing tension that you're going to have to fight for the rest of your life. You want to make sure that you're managing it and it's not managing you.
Correct. So would you say it truly starts with awareness, like I'm in a 2.7, this is how I'm feeling right now? Just being aware, would you say that's where it starts?
And what do I look like? How do I behave when I'm at 2.7? How do I treat other people? What are my patterns of behavior when I'm in that 2.7? And your people around you who know you well, they don't know it in that language, but they know what your 2.7s are. Mm-hmm. And you have to give them permission that when you see this in me, would you let me know? Because often we're the last ones to see it. So sometimes it requires a community to help us get out of our 2.7.
Yes. And a level of emotional intelligence to admit I am not in my best place right now.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And being at 2.7 doesn't mean we're bad. It just means we're not effective. You know, people try to put labels on that. My adult self is my good side. My little guy is my bad side. No, I said, your little guy took care of you throughout your childhood. Your little guy is not bad. Your little guy is just ineffective. And your world has outgrown the ability of the little guy. And the little guy is trying to protect you from hurt by saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and try to get you to play it safe. Well, ironically, playing it safe is the very opposite of what the little guy wants you to do, in that they don't want you to be hurt. And one of the best ways to get hurt, ironically, is to play it safe. Instead of leaning in and trusting your gut and trusting your abilities and trusting your experience and going for it.
That's really interesting on how you labeled the 2.7. You said it's not a mistake. It's not a failure. It's simply ineffective.
It's just ineffective. You know, we all have behaviors that we learned when we were kids in order to create emotional safety in environments that we felt threatened, especially with other adults. Well, no one told us and as we grow into adulthood, those things that we use to keep us safe in adulthood actually make other people feel unsafe. And so when they're feeling unsafe, your team's going to shut down. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, my father would tease me a lot because I would constantly be teasing my brothers. And Dad said, hey, if you're going to dish it out, you got to take it. But I couldn't handle criticism, so I would literally go, well, I'm not talking. And when he would tease me, I would go into a corner, and I could stand in a corner for 3 hours at a time because that was a safe place for me. It was punishment for most people. For me, it was a place of safety. Well, move forward 30 years, and I'm leading a major team, and my team is telling new teammates that are coming onto my team, I had no idea that these conversations were happening, that whatever you do with Fred, don't ever criticize him because he'll shut down on you and he'll go away. And you're outside of his inner circle and you're on the outside. You just need to know that. What they were saying is, Fred will tell you he's not talking and he will go away from you and he will get into his corner and you're isolated. And that shut my team down. It worked for me as a kid, but now as an adult, that same I not talking behavior caused my entire team to feel unsafe and that they couldn't be genuine and real with me.
Oh.
And that's an example of how there comes a point when that behavior crosses from being effective to ineffective. And a healthy team will help you realize what that is and when you cross that line.
Right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Those are some really great answers and different in how I would, for good reason, as I was going through these, like, this is really good. So the information that you shared today was definitely enlightening to me. And the listener, the watcher right now, whether you're on YouTube or you're listening to this on the podcast, hope you found some great value in this. This is our question and answer episode. So if you have other questions that you want to ask either Dr. Fred or the InitiativeOne team, send us an email, and that email is info@initiativeone.com. Any questions that you have, go ahead and email us those questions, and we'll try to address them the best way that we can. Thank you so much for plugging in and listening to this episode. If you love this episode, leave us a rating, leave us a review. If you've not yet subscribed or follow our podcast, make sure you follow it so you don't miss any future episodes. Every month we put on an event called the InitiativeOne Think Tank. It's a leadership event, and really what it is, it's a discussion and where we cover topics that are happening in today's world, and we have a discussion on those topics and share our thoughts and just the principles and the different models that we teach here at InitiativeOne to help you, the leader, whether you're a CEO of a company or a laborer at a manufacturing facility, it doesn't matter. We all have influence with each other. So if you have not yet done that, go to InitiativeOne.com and make sure that you register for the next event. And remember, leadership isn't what you do, it's who you are. Thanks for listening.